ready to buy a home. What is my process? What do I do?
Well, let's go back to our three people. If you recall, we have one person, William, who went with a new build, and we had the other two who went with a resale. Let's focus on William first.
Okay.
With William, we started out, we got him pre-approved. We started looking at some homes, and he was disgusted, I think is the nicest word. He's a bit OCD, and, and he just couldn't stand the thought of moving into these places. He said, I want to look at new builds. So we signed in. It's a whole different process with the new build. We signed in together at the new home sites, found something that actually would work for him. And it was pretty cool. A condo with an attached two-car garage, cut his commute to a third of the time. It was just remarkable. And so we got him signed in, and then we had to follow everything became the builder's process.
Mm-hmm.
And the builder was in charge of everything, including timing. From hello, we want to buy the property. Here's my earnest money check. Yes, you still turn in an earnest money check.
Mm-hmm.
To here are your keys. Aren't you glad you've purchased? It took 14 months.
Whoo.
Originally supposed to take 9. Took 14 months. And so he had to, in the meanwhile, have a place to live with people who were not going to be kicking him out of his rental situation. That was long.
Yeah, that's a long time.
The other piece is that the builder changed things along the way. It was deemed a supply issue and a code issue and some other things. And so he didn't get some of the bells and whistles he wanted.
Yep.
Just they weren't happening. And when he moved in, they hadn't quite finished construction. They still had a few things to do.
Oh, goodness.
It took another month. And so, is it perfect? No. You know, my husband would tell you, there's no perfect house, just like there's no perfect spouse. And that's just the way of it. Even if you get a new build, it's not going to be perfect.
Right. Even if you get a new spouse, he or she still might not be perfect.
Probably not. I think they're human.
I think you're right.
So there you go. So that's the home buying process for new builds. You absolutely, though, have to have your realtor sign in with you on your first visit, or they're not allowed to help you and work with you. Builders are particular that way.
Yep.
So that's the builder side. So that's William. He was our second example. If you take a look at Leila and Tony and Jamie, their process was get pre-approved, start the searching, put bids on properties. In each of their cases, they put bids on at least 2 properties before they got one under contract. It's still kind of dicey that way. We just have limited inventory. But they got under contract, and then we went through all the rest of the steps. Joe or the lender is in charge of the loan pieces, and then title's taking care of title pieces. And then as the buyer, you've got inspections and other things to negotiate, navigate, and take care of. And that process from I want to get started to I'm done can be done in a month. It can be done in 4 months. For our folks in Leila and Tony's case, it was 1 month to get under contract. It was 2 months from when we started to close. And then it was another 4 weeks for their mom and dad to close on their house, and they recast the loan. So they ended up with a much better loan.
Okay.
So they ended up with getting a gift. It's a only child situation, so it works.
Sure.
And that way there's no estate tax or anything like that. And it helps mom and dad out. It helps all 3 generations out.
That's great.
Yeah. So in 4 months, they went from getting on each other's nerves at one of the family's houses to having their own space and much more space and having a much more reasonable rent. It was amazing.
That's great. Now, what about the market? So we touched on earlier, it's a good time to buy, or maybe it's a good time to buy, but I really like what you said is we need to look at our own personal situation. But a lot of people still want to talk about the market. So maybe I've decided it's a good time for me to buy. I'm, having a baby or, need additional space or have a dog, whatever it is. I'm ready to buy. My situation says yes. What do I need to know about the market?
Well, there are a couple of things to know about the market. The first one is that as the market goes up, rent increases. We've talked about that. They're hand in glove. On the left side, you've got home prices. That's your dotted line. On the right side, you see rent prices, but you notice they go up in tandem, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
So the idea is that as soon as you can logistically figure out how to get out, it's wise to do it. Taxes are always increasing. Insurance, unfortunately, is increasing. Maintenance is increasing, and it's always passed on to the buyers. Now, question is, when is it not a good time to buy? Let's say you're going to grad school. Well, you're going to have a decrease in income because you're putting a lot of money and time into school. So that might not be the best time to buy.
Yep.
Or you could be coming to Denver for grad school, right? And unless you've got a home that you're going to sell and you've got enough to put down, it might make more sense to rent your home back where you are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if you're going to stay in Denver. If you do, then that's fine. You really need to kind of plan to be in the home at least 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Otherwise, you have a problem with capital gains.
And so what I'm hearing is the market is important, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about it, but maybe my own situation and my own timeline is more important than the market. Would you agree with that?
Always.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah. And, you've got inflation. Inflation's always going up. It shows right there. You can see from 1982 to 2023, it goes up in price. You're going,
Yep.
duh. It's kind of like a joke I heard the other day. I tried renting a bouncy house. And, the cost was twice as much as it was last year. That's inflation for you.
I think you're right. I love it. Now, what else should we know about the market? We know that rents are going up. We know that prices are going up. What about the current market for homes?
Well, when I show people this particular graphic, it often causes them to glaze over. They're like, well, just throw all the puzzle pieces out on the floor and tell me to create a picture. How the heck am I supposed to even know what to look at? What does this even mean? And it's kind of like that with the home market. There's lots of pieces. It's like 1,000-piece puzzle, but you just need to focus on the part maybe that works on the edge, right?
Yeah.
You just focus on one part at a time. And that's the one that you need to make sense of. So, for instance, let's say you just want a small house. You're enamored of tiny, tiny houses. So at the top, you've got homes less than 1,019 square feet. There were 310 of those available when this data was pulled at the end of fourth quarter last year. That's not very many in the whole metro area. And last year, 2,704 of them sold. It took about 23 days on the market for them to get under contract and close. That's fast.
That's real fast.
Just like that. Lots of them were cash, obviously, because it's pretty rare to get a loan closed in 23 days. You've done it for me in 21.
I can do it. Yep.
Yeah, you've done it, but it's pretty rare. Months of inventory is how fast are they selling? How fast is it going off the shelves, if you will, if you were thinking of a store and the idea. So if it's 1.4 months of inventory, that means in a month and 4/10, so almost a month and a half, everything that's active is under contract. Price didn't go up a whole lot, though. It only went up less than 1%, almost 1%, when you compare 2022's year with 2023's year. That's not much increase in price.
No, not really.
Not a lot. It has to do with the adjustments that we've had with interest rates and the like. And months of inventory this time last year was shorter. It's a smaller number. So homes were selling faster last year. That means with a little more inventory, it takes a little more time for everything to sell. Common sense, nothing.
So if I'm a buyer
Yeah.
and there's more inventory now than there was a year ago, based on that metric, it might be a better time for me to buy because I have more choices. Is that correct?
You'll have more choices, and you will have fewer people knocking you around trying to get to the front of the line. The interesting piece that's happened, though, in the market is that buyers have gotten pickier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something to do with, if I'm paying this much more for a property because the interest rates are higher, I really want something that's a little bit nicer.
Yep, I agree.
Logical thinking. And so what we're finding is that, well, the sellers would like to take as much as they can. The buyers are pulling back, and so we've got a tug of war going on right now between buyers and sellers, and we've got seasonality that's going to come in. But we just take a look. Know if things are staying on the market, you've got a 10-month supply of homes on the market, the seller's going to have a heck of a hard time selling, and they have to outbeat every other property.
That's right.
In that neighborhood. If you've got a neighborhood where you put the home on the market and people come in for cash and they close within 2 weeks, a person with a loan is going to have a really hard time buying there.
That's right.
And so that's where it really is particular. We know that for buyers, it's usually advantageous to buy before everybody jumps in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Or when people are getting out because they're going to go to the holidays. But I've been able to help people all year get into homes and have a competitive edge in their bidding, because it's not always about price on the negotiations, but we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a matter of know the section that you're looking at, know what's going on in that specific neighborhood.
Right.
Because that part is local.
I think you're right. Speaking of specifics, what about condos? Anything different we should know about condos, or does the market operate roughly the same?
It's really a lot the same. What's different is sometimes the loans that you're able to use, because there's some homeowners associations that are not allowed to go with an FHA loan or a VA loan. The requirements haven't been fulfilled. And so sometimes it limits what you can do. But you just take a look and see. It's again, specific to what kind of loan can you get, where would you like to live, what's available.
Yep.